Hi, this is PT at BurgZerg Arcade at BurgZergArcade.com, and this is tutorial 243. We're in the tutorial scene, and this is part O, I believe. So let's go ahead and open up Unity, and I'll just shrink some of this stuff down. So the next thing I actually want to do in this series is actually start getting our player to spawn and have the camera run around with them. So let's go ahead and actually create an empty game object. And I'm going to call this empty game object my GUI. And this game object is basically just responsible for it's empty. It's just going to display the GUI on the screen. Now, of course, we could actually attach this to other things, like, for instance, our camera. Right now, I am attaching it to a different game object besides the camera because I'm thinking maybe later on down the road I might want to have multiple cameras, or maybe even have cameras that pop in and out of the scene as needed, or at least be activated and deactivated. So for now, I'm just going to keep my GUI script on a game object called my GUI. And here it is right here. I'm just going to drag and drop that on. Now, I'm not going to bother getting into what all the variables are just yet. I'm going to go ahead and grab my camera and attach the camera script we're working on. Now, there's still a few things left to do on the camera script, but it's getting there. It's getting to the point where we want. And I know there are other tutorials out there on how to create a camera script that are probably a little more advanced than the one I have now, but I still want to go through our camera script simply because, like, what if there's an update to Unity and the camera script that you copied off of someone else just stops working? You've got to sit around and wait for them to update it, or possibly dig through and update yourself. But if you've never done it before, then you won't really have any idea of how to do it. So that's the main reason why I'm still doing this camera script on my own, is to learn how to actually implement all these features that I want. There, if it does break, I can just go in and fix it. So we'll start off on my GUI, and I'm going to expand this a bit. If we were to actually start the game right now, it does spawn our player. It puts the camera on our player. We're getting an error for the rotating of the camera buttons, and I think that's probably actually a good spot to start. If we open up that camera script, it's looking for the rotate camera button, and to be honest, I think I put them all at the top here. I did. Here they all here. These are all the buttons we're currently have attached in our input manager to our camera. So we're going to have to go ahead and actually enter these into our input manager. And if you notice here, the very last one, the reset camera, I have it set as to do, simply because I haven't implemented that feature yet. So I'm going to kind of move this off to the side so I can keep it on the other screen. And I am going to go into my input manager, and I'm going to add those buttons now. And we'll just take care of the errors as they pop up. So we're going to edit, project input, and here it is over here. And to be honest, I can't remember which one of these I kept and which ones I didn't. I know when I was going through, there was a lot of them that I didn't need for my game, so I just actually opened them up and wrote over them. Just to keep things clear and simple, I'm actually just going to add them to the bottom here. I do recommend actually going back and watching those input manager ones and seeing which ones I didn't use. And of course, your game is probably different. Maybe I'm not using Windows Shake X and Windows Shake Y, so I ended up overwriting these ones. But maybe you are going to use those, and you'll want to keep those around. But anyway, let's go ahead and add a few. Looks like I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. So I'll just increase this by 6. And whoops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I just want to make sure they're all there. And I'm going to pause the video just to keep it brief. And I'm going to go ahead and add all of these ones. So the first one I needed, I'll do the first one on camera. So rotate camera button. And I did leave some comments in the script exactly what this thing is supposed to do. So the button we press to allow us to rotate the camera with the mouse key or mouse button. So for this one here, I think I was using camera or the button right click. So I'm going to come down. I'm not going to bother filling in a descriptor name. You can go ahead and put that in. Well, sure. I'll just actually cut and paste what we have in our script for the descriptive name. And I'm not going to bother with that negative, but I am going to use for run, or sorry, it's going to be mouse, and I believe it's just mouse 2. And I actually didn't mean to put the negative in there. I want the positive. And apparently that isn't it. Maybe mouse 1. Actually, I believe it's with a space. And of course, spelt right. And I believe it's mouse 1 for my right mouse button. And I'm not going to bother with the negatives. Just make sure it's a key or a mouse button. I'll save this off. Let's start it back up, see what other errors we get. And we don't have one to rotate on the horizontal button. And of course, if we come up here, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. And I'm going to go ahead and add all these buttons here. We've already gone over them. If you're not sure how to do it, take a look. I believe we outlined it right here. Tutorial 89. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I've entered all of the inputs that I need, and let's just go ahead and hit start. And we have no more errors, and as we see, our player comes into the world and the camera comes in and focuses in on them, but it's not exactly where we want it. Let's go over to the scene view and take a look here. If we click on the camera, we'll notice it's kind of like in the middle height-wise at our looking at our player. And if we actually click at our player, we'll notice it's it's looking at its midsection. And if we go ahead and click on the camera again, the important thing you want to notice here, there's a few variables here, and if you go back and watch the actual tutorials when we were creating the script, you'll find out what they're for. They're pretty self-explanatory. But anyway, what it's looking for is this tag called player, and that's what we set up by default. So it automatically looks at whatever is tagged as player. And we actually ended up changing this, not in code, but as far as the actual tag that it's going to be looking for. And the way I did this was to take a player. I think I have my muscular one out there right now, so I'll just use that one. You don't have to do this for both of them though. But anyway, open up your prefabs, and I'm using the muscular right now, so I'm just going to click on him. And right underneath the root game object, I created another game object, just an empty one. And I'll just drag it underneath, and I call this camera target. You can call it whatever you want. And I went and zeroed it out as far as position and rotation. So just reset everything, and we'll notice it's down at his feet, not what we want. And if we also look, the positive X is pointing towards the back of him. That's also not what we want. I'm going to move this up, and I actually want it maybe a bit of an over-the-shoulder view. Basically what we're doing is we're designing a spot that the camera is going to focus on for us. So over the camera, or over-the-shoulder cameras seem to be the rage this year, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm going to create a new tag for it. I do not have one already. And tags, you can create as many as you want of them, but layers you are restricted to. And keep in mind that Unity actually uses the first 8. But like I said, tags you can make as many as you want. And I'm just going to call this tag camera target. Again, call it whatever you want. Just remember what you call it, because this is the important part. We're going to come to the camera, and we're going to go to the camera tag. And just put that there. Now I'll save it off. We'll got to resave our character. So I did it for the muscular one, and I'm going to go ahead and just apply it. So it reapplies to my prefab, and of course you'll want to do it to all of your models. And if we start it back up, I've got a PC that doesn't have a camera target, I bet. Well, he does have a camera target. I forgot to set the actual camera target tag. So we'll open them back up. We'll grab my camera target. We'll come up here and select the camera target. Select the whole thing. Hit apply. Go ahead, erase it. Start it back up. And there we go. It's now looking at the kind of over the shoulder. Now you can change this quite a bit. Maybe you want to have it rotate just a bit. I'm going to go to the scene view. But yeah, let's go ahead and actually split the view. And what I'm going to do is actually rotate this a bit. And as you see, the camera actually follows that around too. So maybe by default, you want a bit of a angle on it. Now keep in mind when you're running, it's going to seem a little awkward or crooked. But there we go. Now as far as where our character spawns in the world, let's save that off. If we go ahead and actually look at the player script, actually since I have them here, let's go ahead and open that up. And you'll notice in the PC script, when we're actually instantiating our character, we're getting the position from our game settings to script, and we're calling the load player position. And basically that's just the position that our player was saved off at last. And I believe we actually do have a default set for that. Let's go ahead and take a look. If we don't, I'm not going to be adding it. Not yet. What do we call it again? Player position. So let's go ahead and find the string. Let's look at it 7 times. Okay, so here's where we're saving it. And here's where we're loading it. And it doesn't look like we have a default. And it returns the vector 3. I'm sure we're setting it somewhere as a default. Let's actually go ahead and start the game back up. This might be something I'll have to look at before we move on. I just want to see where he's spawning. And okay. For some reason he's spawning there. I'll have to look it up behind the scenes. But at some point we are saving. Here's our defaults here. Let's go to the very first one. And here we go. We actually have hard casted our starting point, and it'd be kind of nice to actually have some sort of item in game, like some sort of game object that we could have defined as the player's starting point if they don't already have one. And of course later on you might want to add some sort of like bind stone or something like that, and this is gonna, well, we'll end up covering that when we get to it. But anyway, this is where the player starts. If you want them to start somewhere else in the world, go ahead and modify that. And I think that's pretty much it for the catch-up series. Now the mobs I'm not going to cover yet, simply because we are going to be going into those scripts again as soon as we're done this one here. So there's going to be a few things that we're going to be redoing there. There's some health bars that we went over with the player health bar and mob health bar. Again, I'm going to be redoing those fairly shortly. So I'm not going to bother covering those, and they're pretty short tutorials. Just go ahead and look those up. They're near the beginning. And I think that's pretty much it for the catch-up series. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.